are live.
The Fantasmagorium is proud to present Simulations, Sentinels, and Saviors, a review and discussion surrounding the world of the Matrix. Released in 2003, the conclusion of the original Matrix trilogy was loosed upon the world with financial success, but also the burden of living up to expectations and the resolutions of an epic conflict between man and machine. How would humanity survive the Matrix Revolutions? I am Scotty R37. Cat has a new face. Steve is inevitable, and Ernesto is just fighting thousands of Smiths.
One drink at a time.
There you go. There you go. What's going on, guys?
All good.
Not much.
Just wrapping up the movie about now.
Oh, yeah?
I've got 40 minutes to go, but I'll finish it eventually.
Neo's dead. Spoilers.
There he goes. Just so everybody knows, yes, spoiler discussion.
It is the end of Neo. It is time for El Uno.
The time of El Uno to rise. Yeah. So I guess, same as it ever was. Kat, what was your first experience watching The Matrix Revolutions?
I saw it in theaters. There was a woman with a crying baby. I don't know why you take a crying baby to the Matrix.
Oh, God. I don't miss those days.
With as loud as the sound mix to this movie was. But it doesn't stand up as much on its own as its own movie as the second does. Like, this one's really feels like the second half of the first one, or of the previous one.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And Steve, what was your experience first time?
Yeah. Opening weekend. I can't remember the exact day. It wasn't opening night though, but it was opening weekend. I think I saw all three of these opening weekend. Yeah, I don't remember much about the experience other than I really liked the movie. I liked all three of these movies. Not to say that any one of them I think is the best movie of all time or anything, but I really enjoyed all three of these movies. I did think that I remember coming out of the theater thinking that this one was the most spiritual of the three in terms of dialogue and feeling. And so I thought that was very interesting. I thought the second one was more philosophical and the third one was more spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I'm looking forward to getting into that. Ernesto, what was your first time viewing experience for La Matrix Revolution?
Same as the Reloaded. Went with my friends after school on a Friday night. We met up at the big Plaza Las Americas, and we caught the 8:00 showing. Back then, one of the overused words was "oh my god," but in the acronym version, OMG, or "zo my god" with a Z. So there was a lot of OMGs from us watching it. It was a very electrified crowd, on par with when we saw Revenge of the Sith, where every single moment was met with applause, cheer. Everything was just one leveling up after leveling up after leveling up. And one of the biggest applause moments in the movie was with the war in Zion, with the second in command who's just keeping everything at bay, one bullet at a time. To him, he was like the most valuable, the MVP pretty much, with the kid that nobody likes, trying to protect Zion and open the gates so that Niobe can bust in there and release the EMP. So it was one after the other. And then of course you get to the climax with Neo, and we were all just losing our fucking minds. It was a great time.
My stars, we are off to the races already because our benefactor has arrived. How can we not say hello to Old Man Bird? Hello, Fantasmagorium, he says. And thank you very much. And it's great to see a bowing pair. Thank you for being here, Eugene. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, Steve, in terms of the second being more philosophical and the third being more spiritual. I can definitely feel that. But it is something where I do enjoy all three of these movies. I celebrate the trilogy. But I can definitely feel the sort of laws of diminishing returns happening as it goes on. The first one is sort of like groundbreaking. Oh my stars! I can't believe what I'm seeing. The second one, broadening that world, allowing for the lore to really ramp up and posing more questions than answering, which I think is a great way to do a second chapter of a story. The third one, I do feel it kind of like stumbles a little bit. It starts off, as you said, Kat, feeling very much like a part two, a companion piece to the second one. But there are a lot of questions that are either glossed over, or if you didn't get it from Reloaded, this isn't going to help you. I almost feel like any of the innovation that had happened over the last two films, this one is, by my feeling, very perfunctory. Just sort of like, okay, we got to wrap it up and shut her down. Now there are great action sequences, like in the dock with the mechs, and I do like the giant superhero fight at the end with Neo versus the Smiths, not the band. But like all of it is, I just feel like, okay, we have to close it out. And that's what we're getting to. But I never understood what the deal was in terms of Neo being able to connect to the Sentinels in the real world. I don't think that was really addressed. It was just sort of like, yes, that happened. And it's like, okay, so how did it happen? The Matrix, the source.
Right.
So, all right, okay, I guess.
He's a walking cheat code. That's all we know.
And I think that you said that last week, and I'm starting to sort of embrace it more that way. I am curious to see if any of this happens with Resurrections, like in terms of any of the sort of dangling threads that are left over from this, if they are addressed, because I still haven't seen Resurrections. I've heard
next week should
mixed
be a fun
things. It'll be interesting for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to your reaction, honestly, because remembering everything that happens in that one, I'm just like, how is Scott going to even embrace even the first act at number one? I can't even imagine him embracing the next two.
Well, we'll take a deeper look at that, but that's kind of the thing that I know that when people saw the Reloaded, it was confusion with the architect to a certain degree, just because of his, I don't want to say word salad, but his overly complicated explanation of what the Matrix is, what the one is. It took me a couple times to embrace it, whereas this one is like, how does he get into Mobile Avenue? Don't know. Not important. Like a lot of this, and we sort of step away from the Matrix, but not really. Like even there's a vibrancy to Reloaded where this is all basements and nightclubs, and it doesn't, like, the most interesting thing. And I guess it's a visual representation of the blight of the Matrix ever since Smith had been sort of overwriting the world. But it just, and you don't really get a sense of space or distance because it's all CGI and stuff. And the only one that you really do, when you do get it, it's all real world stuff. So it's like not the Nebuchadnezzar going over the clouds to see the sky for the first time. I thought that was revelatory. Same with the sunset or sunrise at the very end.
Yeah.
But overall, it feels very contained as opposed to the first two that were like opening up the world.
Yeah, that moment when the Logos breaks through the clouds to the sun is just, that's cinema. That's just so, that's a great moment in that movie, and a lot of everybody cheers at that and just is in awe of what they're seeing there.
Yeah.
As well as the sunset at the end is really nice.
And I love the fact that it's a fleeting moment, right?
Right.
They don't hold the shot. It's you see it and then you don't. I think it added more power to the scene.
Don't go to sleep. Tell us your thoughts. All right. So this is the most Return of the Jedi movie I've seen in a long. It's like, okay, so much like I mentioned last week, with Reloaded, it's like The Empire Strikes Back. At the end, you get the shocking revelation that actually this isn't all supernatural. You're just another program or whatever, and that people weren't really willing to accept that. And we get into this movie, and it's like, okay, instead of Han Solo and Carbonite, it's Neo kind of unconscious, and we have to go on this side trip to rescue him in a whole segment of the movie, which is largely disconnected from everything else that happens, much like going to Jabba's palace in the sail barge. We got to go to the club to defeat the Merovingian again. We got to rescue Neo from the train station. As Scott mentioned, it's not really clear how this exactly exists or how he got there, but it's just there because it's like, okay, you're clearly copying Return of the like, that's kind of what you're going for. And then he has to, after no sooner than he gets out, he has to go see the Oracle, much like Luke had to go see Yoda and say, why didn't you tell me everything about this before? It's like, well, you, like Yoda says, you weren't ready to hear it. Or Obi-Wan's ghost is the one who tells him that. Yeah. Whereas same thing here, where he goes to see the Oracle. It's like, well, you weren't ready to hear that yet, so I'm not going to tell you. And it's like, okay, I see what you're doing. And then you have the big whole massive campaign. Instead of blow up the Death Star and destroy the shield generator, it's the Battle of Zion. And much like how the throne room scene in Return of the Jedi is just stretched out over like almost an hour.
Yeah,
it's like we're going to stretch out Neo's story by having a lengthy trip for him to get to the Machine City, and they don't cut, because that's one of the unique things about the Battle of Zion. Usually in a third act of a trilogy, when you get your big battle stuff, they cut back and forth to all sorts of different things that are going on. This movie didn't really do that. It's like with either the hammer on its way through the mechanical line that Niobe's piloting, or it's the battle in Zion. Like they don't cut back to Neo. They're like doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And that actually serves the edit, and it's like really like pulse pen. It gets you going, really well edited. Agreed that I don't like the kid character. I don't think he's a good actor. It's just like I did love Captain Mifune though. He's
he
awesome.
is the MVP, as I said. He is.
Also played Ugluk in The Two Towers, the Uruk-hai leading the party back to Isengard. I'm like, I remember that guy's voice, and I had to look it up. I'm like, why do I recognize this guy's voice so much? I'm like, aha! And then I looked it up, and it's like, that's who he is. So it's very much like a Return of the Jedi movie, but to Steve's point, it's not going to be as philosophical for that reason. But also, as Scott said, they didn't really resolve a lot of those errant plot lines. Like, why can Neo suddenly use his powers outside the Matrix? Why? And we do, and of course, we meet the man from the Merovingian, the restaurant who's being let out, and he explains that not only does the Merovingian protect rogue programs, but he facilitates them going in and out of the Matrix at will. And apparently, the deal that this man made was that, well, we're going to protect my daughter. And Neo's perplexed. He's like, what do you mean the program having it love? And he's like, well, it doesn't matter. It's just a word like karma. It's just another word. What matters is the meaning behind it. Yeah. And as we see, they don't get to follow her back into the Matrix. She gets to go, and we find out by the end her purpose is she creates the sunrise.
I absolutely love the even though it's simple, I love the dialogue in the opening scene, in the train station.
Yeah, he's great in that. That's Bernard White. He's
really well done, that scene.
Yeah, it's the closest to artificial intelligence accepting that they want to live, they feel alive, and Neo is us, the audience, being like, "Oh, you do feel, you do want to be alive, you do want to."
And there's a lot of meta in the dialogue throughout the whole movie. There's a lot of meta, not only dialogue, but they because the Oracle changed actresses, so unfortunately the other lady passed away. They absolutely bring that right in to the storytelling, right? So it's because there's so much meta going on inside of the dialogue and the way it's shot. I think the movie makers decided not to tell, to Scott's point, not to tie all of those threads together or explain all of these things, but more or less the point, I think, of the movie at the as it goes through to the end is all about belief and dare I say faith, and you got to kind of take it on faith that these things are happening, because
that's kind of what the Oracle says too. And Seraph asked her at the very end of the movie, he's like, you knew this was going to happen, right? Did you know? She's like, no, I didn't know. I just believed. I took it, and that's kind of the through line for all the characters throughout this. It's so much Jedi that it's almost a beat for beat.
It's funny you mentioned Return of the Jedi, because I wasn't thinking Return of the Jedi, but it does make sense thinking about it. But I was thinking of a lot of Star Wars, especially when the logo says trying to avoid the Sentinels. It's like, man, there's so much Star Wars that like the score itself is borrowing heavily from John Williams. It's like right there in your face. And I didn't realize that the first time.
Oh yeah. That is just also an awesome action scene when the hammer is making its run back through the mechanical line on the way to Zion. Like, that is awesome. But I noticed there was a contradiction where Commander Locke's, the guy in Commander Locke's office tells him, the ship is coming and it's got an EMP. It could fry all the Sentinels and save Zion. And he's like, yeah, it'll also destroy everything on the dock. And he's like, but sir, we already lost the dock. Dock's gone. And Locke looks, disheartened, and he concedes, okay, fine, open the gate. So then they show up, they detonate the EMP, they save it, and then he totally grills him and gets pissed off, saying, you just destroyed the dock and gave it to him on a platter. Like, your guy just told you that the dock was everything on it was gone anyway, and that's why you conceded to opening the gate. It's like, are you just being a jackass because, it's Niobe and Morpheus? So
yes, that's exactly why. He had to be petty.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I also thought other things were John Wick Resurrections. I thought Smith was pretty funny in this movie. Like, especially when
he's really good in this, yeah.
He's really good. Like, when he goes to see, what did you do with Sati? Cookies need love. Just started laughing. Like, that's so good. And the way he just, like, when they're actually afraid when he becomes the Oracle, like, they don't know what he's gonna do, and the reaction that the one Smith has to Oracle Smith taking off the glasses, like, oh my god, it's like, oh god, this is actually
like, oh my god, is this what power feels like?
Right, and then just starts the classic cartoonish maniacal laughter. It's like, and for some reason in that moment, more than any of the other movies, he just struck me so much in costume design is like DB Cooper. It's like, you look just like that. The blend, and obviously there's a lot of allegories going on here. That the villain of the movie is a white guy in a business suit who is completely devoid of emotion and wants to take over everything. The Oracle is a black woman protected by a Chinese man. Neo, even though he's like Jesus, he's, as we see, he doesn't actually. It's not him that saves it. He just makes a deal and doesn't really do anything. And then you have mostly people of color and women fighting in Zion and defending it. So it's like, okay, I can see. And again, the guy in the train station, his, the clear immigration parallel with what they're doing. It's like, okay, so I can see everything that this movie's doing, but it's doing it in a manner that's not like in your face about it, and it actually feels like it fits the story, which is kind of what we want Hollywood to do now. It's like, if you want to tell a story or do that messaging like that, you got to do it in a way that feels organic, that isn't like shoving it down your throat. And this is a good way of doing that.
Use allegory, metaphor, not a baseball bat.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, no, and I'm with you on that, and I had a running joke for a long time, being like, if I see anybody who looks like a box of UNICEF, then I'm just like, this movie is woke. But like this, and as Kat, you roll your eyes whenever I do it, and Jill says, diversity and inclusion is not necessarily woke as long as it is serving the story, and I think that this is something where it doesn't check all the boxes, but if you wanted to be a cynical son of a bitch, you could say that this is just checking boxes for the sake of checking boxes. But I do think it's metaphorical and allegorical. And I want to say thank you to DJ Play Nice for being a member for 6 months. Thank you so much, DJ. Wee.
I was going to say,
good to see you, Lemon.
Oh, what was that?
I wanted to add on to that this is also the most sexually liberated of the three movies, especially when they get to the club scene and Club Hell. Like, that is the Wachowskis. Just, this is who we are, and we are gonna put it on screen, and it cost us over $100 million to make that point.
But again, it wasn't. It was in your face, but in a way that okay.
I'm not saying it bad. I'm just saying that I'm like, man. Not only that, this is also the most sexually liberated of the trilogy in the genre.
And I like how it's called Club Hell.
I don't want to rewrite the movie, the trilogy of movies, but I kind of wished that the Neo Smith would have been wrapped up in the second movie, and the third movie would have been more about just Neo, Zion, and the machines. Yeah, I know people love Smith, and I do too. But it felt like it was too much. It
Well,
felt to me like Smith should have been defeated earlier in the trilogy of movies.
well,
But
that was
I think that should have wrapped up in the second movie, but that's fine.
right, but that was also the through line in terms of how he saves Zion, is that
Right.
Smith is out of control. So it's like,
Yeah.
because I was wondering, in the sense, even in the Matrix Reloaded, I was kind of lost when he shows up and he says, "I'm free." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then he's kind of like more of a useless side character in the Matrix Reloaded than anything else. Because like, yeah, we see he has this ability to clone and assimilate, but Agent Johnson did too during the freeway chase, where he just randomly, instantly assimilates like cops and other people, whoever he needs to.
Right.
But that wasn't deemed as something that was abnormal, whereas Smith is the one which is another thing they never answer in this movie. It's like, why is Agent Johnson able to do that and that's not a problem? Whereas when Agent Smith does it, it's like, oh, we have to be worried about it. But we don't realize that what Smith is doing is a problem until we get to the third movie.
Well, and also they visually differentiate Johnson and Smith just because Smith is actually copying himself, whereas Johnson is just sort of taking over NPCs, if you will, and it's not that same level of threat of making more Johnsons. And don't Google that.
How many Johnsons does one person need?
That's a lot of Johnsons.
I didn't think they were NPCs. I thought they would just be like when people are in the Matrix and they get a job or whatever, and that's but maybe you're right. Maybe they are NPCs.
Yeah, well, and again, when it's sort of established in the first flick that it's like, if they are not with us, like if they're not aware of the fact that they're in the Matrix, they are part of the Matrix, whether they be human or program or anything like that. Obviously, the agents are programs themselves. They're not human, pod people. But I think that I like the fact that Smith is there as sort of a creeping threat that becomes more and more dire throughout the movie. And I guess that's why it feels so dark and enclosed, is because the Matrix is sort of closing in upon itself based on the bullshittery and shenanigan that Smith is going through. But I like the fact that there is a negotiation between Neo and the machines to make something mutually beneficial, as opposed to, all right, we'll blow up the robots and Zion is saved and then everybody has a party and it's all good. Like I like that there had to be something going on in the Matrix, in a movie called The Matrix, as opposed to all of the main action happening in the real world. But I do get where you're coming from, because it's almost like it's dripped out. It's slow fed until the end, because we want to see something bigger than the Burly Brawl in the last movie. And we have to establish Smith as being the ultimate annihilation, the annihilator, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. And the movie's fine the way it is, and the movies, plural, are fine the way they are. I think I was just kind of over Smith by the third movie.
Yeah, it's true. Because like you mentioned, he doesn't really do much as a character. Because then it's also unclear that it's like, okay, so you can get out of the Matrix now, but why, or now that you're completely free of your programming, do you want to just keep doing the same thing? It's like, just like, why do you really want to do that? Like, that's another thing that they don't really explore. It's just like sometimes you have a thing where, like with an actual computer virus, you lose control of certain functions. It just keeps doing it, and you have to like pull the plug to get it to stop. But the idea that once he leaves the program into the real world, like when he assimilates himself into Bane before he jacks out, and he still wants to do the same things, and it's like,
yeah,
I
okay.
think
And I think they could have explored that more in the second movie, right? They could have done that. I think explaining that also what happens in this movie, they explain that Smith is basically Neo's double or negative, right?
Yeah, that's what the Oracle says.
I think if they did that earlier, it may have explained more of Smith's motivations during the. I know he was kind of sidelined in the second movie, but he didn't have to be, right? He could have had. It could have such a more fuller, I think, and the audience would have had a fuller understanding of Smith's motivations if they had done that. But like I said, I'm not trying to rewrite the movie. It's just.
But even when the Oracle says that, it doesn't really make sense, because it's like, if he's a deliberate opposite or negative, then the implication is that that's what Neo's predecessors would have done, made the same deal. But if that's the case, they wouldn't destroy Zion. It's like the architect says, we destroy Zion, you reboot the Matrix for us, and then we let you take a few people to restart Zion and repeat stuff. So it's like the way Smith is presented is like not really designed to be Neo's opposite. He became that way because Neo severed his connection to the whatever controlling program that was running him. So yeah, it's a bit, again, the things that they don't really explain. You kind of like when they say, "Don't try and understand it, just feel it," which is kind of what Nolan said with Tenet. And you just kind of have to feel it with this movie in a lot of ways.
You do, and that goes back to you just got to believe. You just have to. It's fake.
Feel it.
Do the Evolution. Hey, Do the Evolution says, I would have liked to see Neo and the Architect team up because Mr. Smith had gained control of the Matrix and had a desire to expand his reign into the physical world. I don't know about team up with the Architect, but I like where your head is at. I like that is the overriding sense of Neo is the one not to save humanity, but to actually bring balance to the Matrix, I guess. Like, I like that idea in terms of righting that particular wrong, even because he was the impetus as to why Smith became powerful in the first place.
Could you imagine the word salad between the Architect and Mr. Smith?
Oh my God. It would have been great.
It
Well,
would.
part of the reason the Architect has such word salad that's so computer centric is because they want to make the point that this guy has no understanding of human emotion or anything. That's why he needs the Oracle.
Right.
What do you think he is, human?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But goddamn it, he delivers it so well. He does. It's like, you know what? You might be an asshole, but goddamn it, I like how they write you.
Oh yeah, he's like the Matrix version of Frasier.
Indeed.
Do the Evolution asks, who made the score for Jurassic Park? Well, that's John Williams.
Who killed the dinosaurs?
The Ice Age. No,
That's when you should have done your Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, Scott. Come on.
that was as good as I
set
could
it
do.
up for you right there.
Old Man Bird says, I write computer programs for a living. Didn't Neo? Yes, he did. Does that make me a god in this mythos? Cool, or as amazeballs, as the kids say. Absolutely.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Right.
Imagine if Neo had coded Smith, and that's why he's so obsessed with him.
Mm.
He's just an angry child looking for daddy's approval.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. Like the Oracle does say you're a real bastard, Smith, and he goes, "You should know, Mom."
Yeah.
And like that throwaway line, I'm like, I would like more information in regards to this, and it never comes.
But it makes sense, though, right? That the Architect's the father, the Oracle's the mother, and Smith is the offspring.
Yeah,
And
because
the
it's Smith's
problem
job as
child.
an agent to fix all the glitches and stuff. That's what the agents are for. So in a sense, that's why the Architect has agents, even though the Oracle, you can see that the Architect and Oracle have this very tempestuous relationship, because obviously the Architect doesn't like the idea that he has to rely on the Oracle.
At all. Right.
At all.
Can I just say you're very close to saying the article?
I almost did. I was trying to say Architect. I was like Oracle.
I'm like, I know you want to, Cap, but please resist.
Yes, Do the Evolution says Steve would rewrite Alien 3 if he could. Don't tell us.
I'm pretty sure a lot of us would if we could.
I know that's a reference to the fact that I do write. I'm a writer. I do write books, but I'm nowhere good enough a writer to rewrite any movie.
Well, yeah, dude, I trust you to be able to take a stab at Alien 3.
Old Man Bird says,
I like it.
Yeah,
after the agents ran away in the first one, it was hard to respect them, but Smith was scary in this one. Yeah, he was. That was like a horror sequence when they come after Seraph and Sati and the Oracle. And that was actually pretty well done.
I like that they didn't burst through. They just walked in because, again, as he said, it's inevitable.
Mm.
Well, and it is, again, that creeping threat is fantastic, and that it, like, when he says cookies need love just like everything else, like that is a subtle way of like, murdered a child, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it is ominous.
You're saying they are a dyad in the Matrix.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's not only do I think it's the most spiritual movie of the trilogy. I also I believe, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe there's more religious references in this script than the first two.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
not just religion, almost all religions. are mentioned in this movie.
Oh yeah,
All the
especially
schools of thought.
you have the one guy who's constantly carrying the rosary. That's
Mhm.
supposed to when Neo is looking down and he's basically walking on water.
Yeah. Karma.
Yeah,
I mean,
Karma.
there's a bunch.
The crucifix after he gets zapped, but when the machines finally hit him with the power surge.
Mhm.
Yep. And I think the choice of yellow, or I mean gold, when
Gold.
he's basically looking through matrix vision, I guess you can call it. I'm like, that's almost Buddha like with the
Yes.
yellow.
Yep.
Like he's basically at peace with himself, like, or Zen, because that's what I attribute the gold color to Buddha.
Yep.
And I liked seeing, again, through the deconstruction of Morpheus, that he seemed really out of his element in the co-pilot seat on, or the gunner seat on the hammer.
Yeah.
And he was like,
Tell well,
totally like scared and didn't know what he was going to do. It's like, man, yeah, and again, like I mentioned, it's this gradual deconstruction of this badass, cool prophet character where now he's at a point where, he's seen that they've actually breached, Zion, which he thought would never actually happen. And he's just kind of in shock. And it's like, oh, wow, that kind of goes against what we expected, because you expect Morpheus is going to be right about everything, even though in the very end he ends up being right, but not after great cost.
Yeah. But he
and
has
not the way he thought it was going to go.
Yeah, he has to go through that journey because, sometimes you got to knock yourself down a peg or two to lift yourself up again.
Well, and it is cool for Morpheus just because, as you said, Kat, in the first one, he's sort of the all-knowing badass, and in the second one, like all of his beliefs are taken away.
Yeah.
And in the third one, he does feel out of his element, and still holding on to the gravitas that he's always put on based on his beliefs. But now it's just, all right, we have a purpose to save Zion and humanity. And I still believe in Neo, even though I know that I don't know anything. Like there's no certainty to his belief in the same way that was present in like the first movie and the first half of the second one.
Yeah.
But I do like that. And I know people do get frustrated with this trilogy. And I know that we spoke about it last week when it's like, yeah, no, everything about the one is a lie. And people were kind of disappointed with that. I know that reviews for this film, when it came out, people were saying it was anticlimactic. There were things that were sort of left unaddressed. But sometimes, and as you said, Ernesto, sometimes you just got to beat the hell out of your protagonists so that when they win, it's a surprise.
Well, I don't agree that everything about the one was a lie. I think that's true from a certain point of view. Let's leave it at that.
But that's also a theme that comes through in Reloaded and Revolutions, is the matter of making a choice.
Yeah.
And that's what has been instilled not only to humans, but also to certain programs as well. And so even the Oracle says, I had to make a choice and it cost more than I wanted to pay. But she did make that choice.
And did it again.
And did it again. And then and going back to your spirituality, because I'm just going to ping pong all over the place, whatever pops into my stupid little noggin, is with Niobe. When Niobe says, we can take my ship, we'll take my ship, or I'll fly that ship. And Morpheus is like, I didn't think you believed in the one. And Niobe's like, I don't, but I believe in him.
Right.
When it is a more tangible, because it's not a prophecy anymore. It's actually trusting a person.
Like, I don't believe in the myth that you've been telling me, everybody, for God knows how long, but I do believe in this person.
But she does also believe in the Oracle, because she's like, yeah, the Oracle told me that there's going to come a time where Neo is going to need my help. I was the only one that was going to be able to help him, and I would know when that is, and I would make the choice as to whether or not I was going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she does, in a sense, believe, but she has to follow her own path of belief, because all roads meet the same place, but they all have to go through their own hardship.
Yeah. I admit the one thing that I really didn't like about this movie was the way Trinity just kind of has no role in it. Like, she's just kind of there, and she just so unceremoniously dies by getting impaled by all the cables. I'm like, really? that was the ending for this character that you dreamed up for the third movie, that there's nothing. I mean, yeah, she's kind of the sidekick in love with Neo through all three movies. I figured they give her something more, but
Well, I
didn't
do.
have-
Sorry, go ahead, Ernesto.
I didn't have much of an issue. The only thing that I think kind of ruined whatever we got with Trinity in this one is that she was really talking a lot with all those wires and hooks, piercing through her at work. Because there was a moment where I'm looking at my friend, just like, this bitch is still talking.
Oh yeah, it's like when Talia dies in Dark Knight Rises. You wouldn't know she's been impaled by anything because she's just talking in this pipsqueak voice, like whatever, and does this sheepish thing, where she's just doing the same deadpan delivery of her lines, like nothing's wrong.
I'm just like, yeah, it's not like this. It's not like it missed my heart or anything.
No, not at all.
Like every organ, that thing, those wires hit every major organ, and they should have exploded right there. And I get it. It's like I was into it. I was okay. She's gonna give her final, goodbye, but it just kept going. I remember when my dad and I saw it. He also was just like, damn, this woman is still talking. Why? How is she still alive?
Well, I remember hearing people having criticisms about Trinity. Not like she's sort of she's trying to rescue Neo, but the biggest complaint that I heard was people saying, so she dies in Reloaded, and the only thing they could think of to do in Revolutions is she dies. But like that beat in Reloaded, it's kind of like how they originally wanted the end of Superman 2 to have him fly around the earth and make it go backwards again. And it's like, but you did that in the last movie. Why are we seeing this again? And that's in the director's cut, so they never released that theatrically. But I'm saying that that's kind of the same feeling that I get with Trinity's death. Is like, oh no, Trinity's dead. No, she's not. And now Trinity is dead. But I get that they had to kill Trinity because they were going to kill Neo. Like,
well, it's kind of like, in Empire Strikes Back, one of the criticisms people had for why they didn't was like, why did you bring Han Solo back when his big climactic thing is to just try and open a door? Open the shield to get into the bunker. And it's kind of like with the thing that Trinity primarily contributes to this movie is that after Neo is blinded, she's the one who pilots them to where they need to go. But even then, it's a crash landing at some random place, and it's not actually the place they necessarily need to go. It's just that the crash alerts the machines that something's wrong, and they go to see what it is, and it's like, oh, it's the one, But yeah, you're right. It's like, we saved you at the. She even makes reference to it, where she's like, "Yeah, no resurrections this time. You saved me last time. I'm not coming back this time." I'm like, oh yeah, like Empire, where they, I love you, I know, and then they reverse the dialogue in Return of the Jedi. So like more Return of the Jedi references.
Yeah.
I didn't mind when they did it in Reloaded because they were trying to mirror the first movie. I saved you, you saved me. But I was okay because even when I saw it for the first time, you can kind of tell the undertone. It's like, oh, they're not coming back. This is it. This is the final. This is their final flight of the Osiris. They're not coming back. I just think that it's kind of like you mentioned with Talia in Dark Knight Rises. Really, you couldn't reshoot that again?
Do the Evolution says deadpan, getting Star Wars Queen Amidala vibes here. I will not condone actions that will lead our people to war. And old man Bird says, do you happen to know if the actresses wanted to return? Do you think they liked it, or is it money?
They shot 2 and 3 at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm not sure why, given the Oracle's not in bare like 3 scenes in 2 and 3, why they weren't able to shoot all of Gloria Foster's scenes at the same time. But the scheduling didn't allow that, which is why they had to end up switching actresses after Gloria died. But yeah, it was all shot at the same time in 2001. It was billed as like one big movie. So I think they trusted them enough after the first movie and how successful the first film was. Like, yeah, we're there with you. Because again, as we mentioned, they were planning a trilogy from the beginning. They even show the architect's, master console room in the first film. So I think they came back because they trusted him at first. However, if they had done them individually, I think they still would have come back because they liked him enough that, well, we need to finish the story. But maybe money would have played in a little bit more for the third one because certainly those three characters. This one feels like the most ensemble of all of them. Like they don't like Morpheus, Trinity, and Neo still felt like the leads in the first two, whereas this third one, it's kind of like a jumble of everybody else as well.
And the third one, the action is really done differently because the first two are heavily reliant on the martial arts. Here, it's straight up war, and yes, there is some hand-to-hand combat when they're trying to locate Neo, but they're really holding their cards for the final act, the superhuman battle in the third act. So this one is just about, well, we promised you a war, so we're going to put the hand-to-hand combat on the side and give you the war.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I think that's also like I don't want to downplay it because, as Steve said, like I celebrate the trilogy. I like them. I know that there are high points and low points for all three movies, and it does sort of decline as the three movies progress. But I do like that there is a lot more going on in the physical world. Like most of the story takes place in the Matrix in the first one. It's a bit of a balance between the real world and the Matrix in the second one. And in the third one, it's like the Matrix is falling apart. The Matrix sucks. We don't want to go there very often.
Right.
And I like that because the stakes become real. And then to what Kat said, with the more of the ensemble and seeing everybody, the population of Zion, I like that because it's more people, more desperation, and not upgrades. Like no one's really smug about it. No one really knows what their footing is, which is different than most, because usually as the primary characters travel through a trilogy or a series of stories, their knowledge becomes more. They find out more stuff, and so now they can unlock more things. And in this one, the more they find out, the more shit is taken away from them, which I like. Like I like that. Take stuff away from your main characters. Your main characters are not your friends. They are people that you want to see succeed, but throw as many adversities as you can right in front of them.
Financially, I also see that the success of the films is kind of like this, where first one made $467 million, second one made $741 million because the interest is really there. Then the third one dropped to $427 million. But information on DVD sales says that the third one made $116 million in DVD sales.
Yeah.
I was not able to find DVD sales information for the first two. But that's pretty good. And I remember, it's like, man, think about how much money. The studio is always looking for money. It's like, guys, when you used to do DVD stuff, look how much money you were making on just one title when you had this DVD thing versus streaming and rushing things to streaming within a few weeks of release.
Yeah. And throwing money into the air because you want it to be an all streaming purpose.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I'm still wrapping my head around that business model in terms of maintaining a perpetual subscription base as opposed to championing individual releases. But because I don't know how you qualify or quantify the success of a film if you're saying, whoa, it brought in 78 new subscribers to Disney Plus. Hooray. It's like, I guess you're happy with that. Okay, that's fine.
That's why Sony decided not to. They had conversations about whether they would have their own streaming service because they actually have a lot of content. But they're like, no, we're not going to deal with that headache. We're just going to lease out the stuff and just keep making money, hand over foot that way.
We'll keep using Crackle, but we won't put anything on it.
Yeah.
But that is the smartest choice that they did. You know what? We'll just license these things. We make money. We make more money there.
We make more money that way.
Yeah,
definitely.
I wonder though, if the movie maybe the third one would have made more money if it was maybe released more than, because this was just out like 5.5 months later.
Right.
Yeah.
And they had a good buffer between this movie and Return of the King, like 6 weeks or whatever, which is usually enough time. But I don't know, maybe the people were burned out and maybe they weren't hungry enough for the ending after seeing Reloaded and being bummed, maybe waiting until next summer, because certainly making it a summer release, more people are going to be around to go and see it.
And repeat viewers as well during the summer. So
yeah, the quality of movies released in the last 2 months of the year tends to be a lot higher than what you get around summer. And it's like, yeah, maybe save this for the big blockbuster of summer 2004.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it would have been a guarantee because I can also use Dead Man's Chest and World's End as an example, where the second movie made $1 billion, but then the next one barely cracked $1 billion. It made a lot of money,
Well, it's
but
still pretty close. The first one made $1,060,000,000, or the Dead Man's Chest made $1,066,000,000, and then World's End I think made 930 something million. So it's still pretty even.
No, again, it did make those comparable, but at the same time, even after they released them with enough time set between them, it's like here's an overwhelming, expectations. Are they met or not?
Yeah, there was a drop off.
It's very rare that they that a trilogy or even further a series of movies go on the uptrend. It's usually up, right? First two movies and then it's down. Usually
I think Lord of the Rings
you'll get a spike in the second movie.
I think Lord of the Rings trilogy defied that. I think they kept making money.
And that's why I said it's very rare, right?
Yeah, it's an anomaly.
Very, very few trilogies that actually do that, the upward trend.
Well, and it's also like in terms of these two movies, what is it? Even Roger Ebert's review of it, he had criticisms of it. I think he gave it like 3 out of 4 stars. Mm-hmm. And he said, here's what's wrong with it. This, and this. But if you like these movies, this is worth seeing. Like, to conclude the story, it's worth it. And it's more a credit to the film series than it is to the individual movie. And because not as popular as the original Matrix, Reloaded did do well, but it wasn't. And the comparison that I have is the cliffhanger from Infinity War. Like, when I walked out of Infinity War, I was with a guy who was like, well, that sucks. And I was like, well, we all know they're making another one and it's coming out next year. Just wait longer for the end of the story. But Infinity War, in my opinion, is better than Matrix Reloaded. And the anticipation of seeing how everything will write itself is much more obvious at the end of that movie than the end of Reloaded, where it's like, so Neo can control Sentinels now. Smith is apparently in human form. What? Huh? Like, there is no real drive except to find out what happens in the third movie. It's not to find out about the end of the War with the Machines, because it's not called War with the Machines Reloaded. It's called The Matrix. What's going on in The Matrix? And you don't really get that here.
That is a good topic now that I'm thinking about it. Like, how often or when was the last time since from Infinity War to Endgame, and then you have from Reloaded to Revolutions, where hang on a second, give me a second.
Sure.
More movies I saw, the less I understood, and I only understood 50% of the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, like, again, because we had the audience surrogate through Neo, we were being told whatever Morpheus wanted to tell us. And then we had the other character, we had Cypher sitting there saying, he's full of shit. Shut the fuck up. Yeah. And like, there was sort of a confusion to it, but I embraced that confusion to a certain extent. It's like, I'm not actually going to get it. And the thing is that when you turn it into a product and you turn it into an episodic trilogy, and you're like, okay, start answering questions now. And it's like, that's not this story. That's not what we're doing here.
Yeah. Sorry, what I was trying to say earlier is, when was the last time we had a movie that ends on a downer, and then we have to wait until the next one to end on a chipper moment? Because you brought up with Infinity War, that movie ends on a downer because the world got snapped, and then you're waiting for Endgame to see it conclude, and it ends on a high note. Granted, there was some tragedy, but it's still a high note.
Empire Strikes Back kind of does that.
Yep. Yeah. But even the last earlier topic was, when was the last time and how often do we end up in these situations where one thing ends on a slight downer and we need to wait for the next one to see what happens?
Well, the Harry Potter movies. Like, the Harry Potter movies get progressively, like, the endings get worse and worse and worse until you get to the actual final story. Same kind of, like, again, all these movies that are based on YA novels, where it's like the Deathly Hallows Part 1, Breaking Dawn Part 1, 50
Yeah, but the
Shades of
Harry
Grey
Potter,
-1.
But that's a different thing where they're
yeah,
taking
but
one
the Harry
story
Potter
and breaking
movies
it.
don't end on a to be continued because
Well,
they're already progressing. But
Back to
with
the Future
Reloaded and
2.
Revolutions and Infinity War to Endgame, those are to be continued type of
Right.
movies.
Well,
Sure, but even
Back to the Future 2 didn't really feel like a downer ending because they saved the day. They stopped Biff. They set things right. It's just that Doc's stuck in the Old West.
again bringing us back to another sort of oh no, Han's in carbonite. We have to go to the Old West.
Right, but it wasn't really a downer, so to speak.
Well, it wasn't. It was an obstacle in
Right,
between.
and the thing with those YA novels you brought up is that those were written as single editions, which were then arbitrarily broken in half by the film adaptations.
Yes.
They weren't
Sure,
like,
but there are movie-going audiences that didn't read the book. I never read the books, and so it is
but they
kind of
don't hold together as like if you watch Deathly Hallows Part 1, that doesn't really work as a single movie. It's like clearly designed that you need the second half. Like Infinity War still works as a single film because it's like Thanos and Thor on a competing hero's journey. Now, I admit the weak part of that movie is that it doesn't really have a beginning. It's completely dependent on you having seen Thor Ragnarok to know what the hell's going on.
Right.
When it starts, and they admittedly the big mystery that they never answer about Thanos is like, if you were powerless to save your planet, where did you get all these legions, and like how did that happen? Like what journey did you go on there? Like that's something that they never dive into. But but other than that, it still stands on its own as its own solid movie with the beginning of a sort of a beginning, but definitely a middle and an end.
Yeah. The end just happens to be the hero at the end happens to be the villain.
Yeah. Whereas like Deathly Hallows 1, they tried to make it more of a dramatic type of end beat for that because you could tell it wasn't designed like the climax of that movie is getting out of Malfoy Manor, but you could tell that wasn't like that was a single whole chapter in the book. But now they're trying to make it seem a lot bigger and satisfactory as a ending of a movie where you're gonna have to wait another 9 months or 8 months for the second half of the story.
right. But and with Reloaded, I agree with you that Reloaded feels more like a standalone, and this one feels like, but wait, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of Reloaded is just like, okay, there's Bane. Okay, Neo's unconscious. There's Bane. And with this one, it takes a little while to get back into the swing of it. Like it does ease you back in, or maybe it's to be less charitable. It's a slow start to this one because we get into basically an exposition situation and awaiting and how is Neo's brainwaves. It's like he's in the Matrix, but he's not jacked in. Like there are a lot more questions. Whereas again, the first movie we get Trinity, second movie we get Trinity, both times doing kick-ass things. And this one is sort of like, you guys saw the last movie, right? Okay, well, we're going to pick up a couple things and then I'll see you in about 10 minutes and we'll start the movie proper. But we have some philosophy to take care of here first.
Yeah.
Again,
I enjoyed the beginning of this movie. I like that it didn't start with a big action scene.
But the thing, like, even if you hadn't seen The Matrix and for some reason your boyfriend or girlfriend decided to take you to Reloaded, if you wanted to watch Reloaded, you're obviously going to end that movie being like, okay, so they're going to make another one. I guess I could go back and watch the first one. If you watch this one, like most of the time when they say they want to make a sequel to something, they go out of their way to make it so that you can jump in here and then go explore the rest of it. Like, obviously you're going to I'm not going to go and watch Return of the King first, but if I wanted to, I could.
Mm-hmm.
So
but yeah, you could still follow the story. You're just not going to have the same emotional anywhere near the investment that you get out of the first two.
Right.
But another thing I liked about this movie is that they got Bruce Spence to play the train, because in a space of a few years, he got to play these neat character roles in the third act of 3 separate trilogies, where he got to play the train man here. Mm-hmm. He got to play Tian Medon, the ambassador at the Prime Minister of Utapau in Revenge of the Sith. Mm-hmm. And then he got to play, of course, the Mouth of Sauron in Return of the King. Granted, it was the director's cut because they cut, or the extended cut because they cut that out of the theatrical. But I thought that was kind of neat that he pops up in the third act of those 3 trilogies.
Yeah, it's cool.
And the train man being such a like in the it's such a weird thing because like the Merovingian is so top 1% prissy, extremely wealthy, filthy wealthy guy, and the guy he's counting on to help facilitate his con is the grungiest, creepy homeless guy in this pristinely clean train station with a pristine subway train that you would never find in New York or the places where you find subways. And he's like this totally grungy guy that came out of a sewer or something. And I'm like, I love this.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And he's got all those watches. And,
yeah.
No, it is fantastic. Well, Bruce Spence is always a delight whenever he pops up in anything. But I do like that because there is sort of the Merovingian had been around for a long time, like since the first Matrix. We're dealing with almost like ancient programs at this point, and I guess in the mind of any program, anything longer than 12 nanoseconds is an eternity. Right. But like we're talking about the oldest programs in the Matrix, and I do like how the train station is built by the train man. I love that line that he gives, and he's like, "You don't get to threaten me here. This is my world. I made this.
I make the threats.
I am God.
I am God."
Yeah. I love that, and I like it because even with the trainman and the Merovingian, while they are antagonists and not necessarily anybody's best friends, they're not bad guys. Like
they're brokers,
right?
Yeah, which I think is really cool.
And like the Oracle says, the only reason the train man is not your enemy, the only reason he's going to be is because he's employed by the Merovingian. And when the train man recognizes Neo, he's like, "Oh yeah, knowing him, you're going to be down here a long, long time. So get used to it." And then I admitted as a kid when I first saw this movie, I'm like, since even what is in the suitcases that they're taking with them, because they're not really going. And I felt bad because it's like, oh, they left the suitcase, the biggest suitcase that they were bringing with them gets left behind at the station, and I had little anxiety. I'm like, when Neo and the train man are having their back and forth. And when I saw this when I was 15, I'm like, are you gonna grab the suitcase? Is the other guy gonna grab? No, they're taking away without it.
Well, it kind of reminds me of in Castaway, where Tom Hanks is going through all the discarded Purelator things, and then he leaves one and he just doesn't even open it. And then they say in like the director's commentary, it was like, it was a satellite phone. I wanted to know what was in the suitcase that was left because he's trying to figure out how to get out. Right. And I was like, would you check that?
Of course.
I know maybe it's not necessarily the most kosher thing in the world to go through somebody else's bags, but desperate times.
You absolutely would.
I would.
Yeah. But that's also odd that he runs into the tunnel. He just comes out the other side, and it's again like, what is the logic of how this place exists and how you're trying? Like, again, it's just you just have to roll with it.
Completely reminded me of a visual representation of Limbo.
Exactly. That's literally what. Yeah, it is Limbo, but it's like, again, how did you get in there? Why? It's like, we'll just roll with it. Like they're doing their Jedi thing, the job of okay, I get it. And instead of R2 rolling around serving drinks on a sail barge, it's they're just sitting at the table with their drinks already served, sucking on his olives in this very leather sexual inspired club,
munching on olives.
Well, and and that's also, I don't know. I kind of wish that they had either the twins in this one, or the trainman in Reloaded, right, with no reference to what he's doing, just sort of like looking like a creepy henchman in the background. And then it's like more interest. Oh, you think he is?
Well, I think he is in Reloaded. In the wide shot, when the guy is when what's his name is walking out of the restaurant, and he looks at Neo. I think it's in the background. He's sitting at the table, but they don't emphasize it. And they don't show it again. I think he is in there. I think though.
Okay,
I think it's like a blink and you miss it type thing.
It is a blink and you'll miss it because the first time I saw the Reloaded, I really don't remember him ever seeing him in the restaurant. So when Revolutions happened, I'm just like, wait, who are you? When did we see you? I don't remember you. Mm-hmm. Also, sorry I was gone. I had to walk the dog for a bit.
Yeah, I just got to step away for a second as well.
Another neat line I caught is when Seraph goes to the club, the bouncers recognize him. They're like, "Oh, you're back."
Yeah.
And then the line is mentioned when they greet the Merovingian that he's like, "Oh, have you come to collect the bounty, Seraph?" And it's mentioned that he used to work for them or something. but then apparently left to go serve the Oracle.
Right.
Which is another interesting little story that I would have liked to get more background. I mean, that would have been an interesting story for the Animatrix, maybe. Like, wait, what? Or maybe it's in the Enter the Matrix video game. I can't remember, but yeah, he's like, so you used to work for him and used to be his friend, and now you're not. It's like, okay.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of little open threads that I would have loved to get more. And if it was in either in an additional animatrix, or I don't know. I don't know if anybody wrote books or even comic books. I'm sure there's comics, but I don't know if they ever explore that kind of stuff. That'd be awesome to have.
I rewatching it. I wonder if everything that happened with him in the train station is like, yeah, he ported himself into the Matrix at will, and I always took it as the Merovingian just caught wind of it and decided, oh, he's not moving. Ooh, I'm gonna have fun with this. All right, you betrayed me, you embarrassed me. I'm going to have fun with you. That's how I took it.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out why Seraph used to work for him.
Yeah,
Seraph, that's the guy at the train station.
No, he's the guy who's protecting the Oracle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they mentioned he's like, "Oh, come to collect the bounty, Seraph," and the bouncers were shocked that he came back, and because he used to work with them apparently from a seemingly throwaway line of dialogue. I'm like, wait, what? It's like he used to work.
But there's a lot of those in these movies. A little throwaway, like, wait a minute, we need more about that. Come on. Man.
So would that mean that Seraph is like an old program? Like,
yeah, very old, ancient.
Yeah, he's got to be.
You know what the religious gag was with him? I remember when Reloaded came out. I don't know who it was because I didn't recognize the actor playing him, but like I know he's well known for other things. But at the time, to him, it was like over my head. I remember somebody say, "Oh, isn't that cute? He's letting Keanu Reeves look like he knows what he's doing. He's like slowing down his martial arts so that Keanu Reeves can look good." I'm like, "The hell are you talking about?" Didn't take me until years later to figure out what the joke was. But I don't know. Maybe would it have been satisfying if there had been some additional compendium stories, like to fill in those gaps?
Well, yeah, like we were mentioning, there's a ton of plot holes that aren't filled in. It's like, how did Neo get to the train station? Why is he able to use his powers outside the Matrix?
Well, again, with the train station, I think it explained itself. Like with the Merovingian keeping him there, I thought, oh, you did something.
No, but I mean, Neo passing out from exhaustion or whatever from zapping the machines in the real world should not teleport him into this limbo portal between the Matrix and the real world.
But why not? Because he is accessing the Matrix to do that.
Right, but
he's not fully in control of it. Like you can tell that he's like, wait a minute, I can sense them. If I can sense them, then maybe what if I try this? And he pretty much just tested it out in a way that I'm just like, oh, maybe I should probably not have gone full tilt because now I'm stuck in here.
I mean, but you're making a lot of assumptions that the movie never makes, and if they would have made that,
it's right there.
I don't think it's right.
I don't think it's right there.
I don't think it's right there.
It's right there.
Yeah, well, but that's that. I think that's where some of the disappointment came from, is because that's a huge hanging. How did this happen? And it makes it the explanation for it. There has to be another layer above, like in the real world, there has to be something else that's going on. Even when we get Smith going into Bane, that's a visual representation that is logically explained just through the visual presentation. And so I can buy how Smith can get into the real world. I don't know how Neo does what he does in the real world. It's never explained. He just can do it. And when he does jack in without being jacked in, and this was something that I noticed this time, is that when they rescue him, they unplug the back of his head. So does that mean they moved him from the hospital bed into one of the chairs? Then they didn't jack him in. They just plugged him in. how did the operator get him out? Because even Link says, I don't see Neo. There's something there, but I don't know what it is. Like, so there are all of these sort of things, and it's like questions. Would you like any answers for these? I'm sure you would. Are you gonna get them?
I think that scene with him being moved from the hospital bed to the chair, it's like, okay, well, at some point, because we don't see it, we just have to, fill in the blanks ourselves. And I get the frustration because it's not fully answered. The way I looked at it is that at some point when Trinity found him, okay, well, time to go. Let's try to get me out the same way we normally do. Because when they checked his brain waves, it looks like when he's jacked in. So to them, okay, well, maybe if we put him on the chair, connect him and then connect him out, then he'll come out normal. Because if he could have gotten out without it, then they would have done it without having to put him in there. But clearly, he had to port out the way they normally do.
I'd like to say hey to BJ Creatives, and also Cinema Gulp is here.
Cinema Gulp.
Old Man Bird says the machines wake up and they discover humans have been farming the energy created from their digital dreams.
Twist.
What Cinema Gulp says, if you really think about the Matrix, nothing really makes any sense.
Well, and
it really doesn't.
But that's also that, and I don't want to take away from it, because I do get how these things are sort of just dangling there with no real resolution. Matrix resolutions, that's what they should call the next one. But like it is something where your mileage may vary based on your passion for the movies, because there are things that, like, even though I'm sitting here and I'm saying, like, how does that happen? How did that make sense? How did he get it? At a certain point, I am with you, Ernesto, and it's like there is a way, and it doesn't make sense. And as I said before, it's like the more questions that are brought into it and the more confusion is layered up, at a certain point when the movie maker says, I don't care. And if I don't care, then the audience shouldn't really be that concerned with it. And there are audience members who are going to sit there and say, no, I want fucking answers now. You better tell me. And there are other people who are going to fill in the gaps on their own.
Yeah, fill in the gaps on their own, and others that just take it as face value and say, hey, okay.
Well, considering what Neo is able to do, they do take it at face value. They just think it's another one of his abilities, whether he's jacked in or not. Because he is right. Because he is doing things that is beyond everybody else in Zion. So I can, at least me watching it again, I can sit here thinking, you know what? I can buy that this is happening the way it does, because he is an anomaly, as they keep selling it. He is the anomaly. So it's not that far out of the way to stretch the believability that he can do what he's doing. But at the same time, even he's trying to figure out what the hell's going on, because he's entering now a new realm of himself where he's just like, I don't know what's going on, but I have a feeling, and that's how it is.
Well, and to carry on with the religious parables, there is a certain point where it's like, why have you forsaken me, Father? Yeah. It's like Jesus knows that he's Jesus.
Right.
But he still is like, why? Why are we doing this? Why do we have to do this?
All of these questions are I think are maybe intentionally unanswered, because
maybe
the through line is, it's about faith and belief. You just got to believe. Trust us, right?
Cinema Gulp says the Matrix is brilliant regardless of making any sense. Revolution sucks. I don't think it sucks.
No, I don't think it sucks either.
I think
the third act of a 3-act play.
yeah, definitely that. It's definitely not as good as the first two movies.
Yeah. And even then they were like, with a lot of these questions, apparently, like the Matrix Online, the massively multiplayer online role-playing game that they released at the time, was supposed to deal with all, like, the questions were answered. Like there were quests where you would unfold the parts of the story that weren't directly.
I like that.
That's cool. It becoming sort of a multimedia experience in storytelling.
Basically, we have to go into the Matrix to find the answers.
Yeah. Well, and that, like, there are whole storylines. I remember when I was getting after this one came out, and I did exactly what I do with every movie, and I just went on IMDb and went and did all the research I could, saw as many of the games as I could, and it was like, oh, okay. And then you find out that the death of Morpheus is something that plays out as a quest on the Matrix Online, like all of these things, so that you would feel more connected to the storytelling. But again, that is for a certain part of the audience who is that invested.
Yeah.
But it's there if you want it.
It's also a big risk to even create such a archive for that audience, because that's believing that they're going to get a big enough fan engagement, I guess. Like, I have to believe at some point, if they created that platform, they had to have known after Reloaded, you know what, we might get a good bump if we do this. I don't know how many of audience members, but it's going to be a big one.
Well, and again, yeah.
To ask the question, did the Matrix Revolutions as is was an intentional design just so they can boost the engagement to find the answers?
I think, and maybe this is just, I don't know. I think that maybe one of the detriments of it may have been is at the end of Reloaded, when it says to be concluded, there is an expectation that it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll wrap it up. And if you had left that title card off, then it's not the end of a trilogy. It's the next story of the world of the Matrix. And it would have dangled, and it would have been like, oh, okay, there is no official the end. Because even at the end of Revolutions, it's like, how long do you think this piece will last?
Right.
And it's like, as long as it can, which opens the door to the next fight.
Yep.
My stars. I love this. Ben says the 2 or 3 Sentinels you see in the Matrix 1 were so much more effective than the 50,000, 250,000 actually, of them at the end of Revolutions. Mm-hmm. But again, that's third movie-itis. Yeah. Make it bigger. Make it bigger. Hey, Daniel's Hot Topics is here. The Matrix Revolutions was great, but I wish I could have seen Smith take on the Merovingian. I don't know, man.
I'm sure he does at some point.
He might have. Yeah.
That would have been a great word salad scene.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Oh, he definitely. It's not that he might have. He did. Smith had assimilated every living thing in the Matrix, even the black cat at the end.
Yeah, even Miss Belushi's breasts were assimilated. I mean, good Lord, they were right there. They were right there.
In your face.
But even that, like, I thought that was interesting, but also something that is just because. Why is Persephone there? Well, because she is. Like, you get the distinct impression at the last time that you see Persephone that there is discord between her and the Merovingian. I wasn't expecting her to come back.
Yeah.
I was okay with it because they're that couple. They're that, okay, well, I'm going to get my rocks off. You're going to get yours. We're going to come back to each other. And next time, you don't pull that stunt again. Okay, dear? Okay. That's the couple that they are. They'll cuck each other just so they can put each other in line.
Well, and yeah, she does say it is a game.
Mm-hmm.
And
who knows
Reloaded,
how long they've been doing it. They've been doing it for a long time.
But and not to take away, because I do enjoy the speculation, but when you're concluding a story, having so much of it be left up to the suppositions of the audience, like it can feel less than satisfying.
Yeah, because there's a point where it's no longer them deliberately wanting to leave it ambiguous to them. Just they didn't think about it, didn't care, and just ran with it. Eventually you reach that point where it's like, like your receipts aren't adding up here.
Also, you'd think with all the access to all the entertainment that the Merovingian has with Persephone, you could tell that scuffle at the club is the most excited she's ever been in her life.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Out of everything they've probably done together or individually, that is the most excited she's probably ever been since she shared a kiss with Neo.
Yeah, right. I agree with that.
And I think this is the movie where I would guess that Sense8 was starting to form for the Wachowskis moving in the years later.
I forgot about Sense8.
Yeah. I love that first season, but then it kind of went somewhere else.
But yeah. So it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Punch to the face.
Yeah, and I
The score was great in this movie too.
Yeah.
the score was great.
Yeah.
That final choir song when the credits roll. "'Cause the sun,
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
come on. YouTube is not going to flag that.
Not that. I just don't want to hear you say it.
Oh, fine. Fuck you then. Shit.
It is the Matrix's yub nub.
Yeah.
Oh God, I thought that would be a funny joke.
And Old Man Bird says, Old Man Bird says you're going to enjoy the fourth movie. There are a lot of meta jokes making fun of itself.
Mhm.
I've heard that I've heard a lot of things about it, and I can't wait to see it for myself. But
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that's why I think we had such a robust and good conversation about Reloaded, is because of so many things were brought up, and you can chew on them mentally and figure out what exactly everything is, how it all plays together based on what you learned from the first Matrix. And this one doesn't ask a whole lot of questions, doesn't answer a whole lot of questions. A lot of it is because of movie, and we're ending, and what do we have to do? Like, those are the boxes that are being ticked here. We have to have a fight between Neo and Smith. We have to defend Zion. We have to end the war somehow. And everything else is just scenery along the way, which isn't bad, but it doesn't have it's not as much to chew on as the first two. And
no, because like Kat said, it's Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's basically Return of the Jedi. It's all right. We know this is the last one of the trilogy. We're going to wrap everything up in some sort of nice bow, and that'll be it.
Sort of nice.
Still, again, like, still satisfying, and with the world that has been built, not just with the 3 theatrical films, but also with the Animatrix. I like the world building. I like the mythology. I like the characters. I think it's exciting. The first one was definitely a change to cinema as a whole when it comes to action movies.
Mm-hmm.
It just, with such aspirations and achieved innovation from the first one, for it to just but for it to sort of rest on being a typical conclusion of they fight, and we win. They won with great loss and sacrifice,
Right.
but still,
there were several emotional beats in this film that I was not expecting to get pulled out of me. So I mean, there's that.
One thing about Resurrections, the line "Mr. Anderson" goes really hard, and you'll know it when you see it.
I am looking forward to, and usually I watch these when we do the reviews. I watch them the day of, just so it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
But because this will be my first time viewing Resurrections, I think I'll probably end up watching it this weekend and then rewatching it again on Thursday, just so I can piece it together. Unless I hate the fuck out of it, and then I'll just read the Wikipedia the day before.
Right. This will be the very first time that I rewatch. I only saw it when it came out. You know, they were doing day and date on Max back then, and I watched it at home, but I haven't gone back to it since. So,
well, and it's going to be an interesting conversation, because it's not something I've heard people hate it. I've heard people say it was fine. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard any rave reviews for it, but yeah, I'm not mad at it. I didn't avoid it on purpose when it was released. I think it's just going to be interesting to finally get around to one of those movies that I like the first three. There's no reason not to see the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I saw Jaws: The Revenge.
Right?
So. Oh, yeah. And Daniel in the chat says Seraph is hinted to be an agent of the first Matrix, aka the Paradise Matrix. And this movie, they called him Wingless. Did they call him Wingless?
Yep.
Cool. The agents of the first Matrix were said to have wings, like angels, I suppose.
The bodyguards in the parking garage going into the Merovingians Club, they call them wingless.
Oh.
Oh my god, those guys were useless.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But,
that's
damn. I mean, if you really want to show a force, hire people that show force, not that pathetic excuse for a bodyguard.
That's where the twins should have been.
I agree with that. That's where the twins should have been.
But then the three of them couldn't have just walked in the way they did.
right. And that's also when you develop antagonists or villains or henchmen that can do anything.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so how do they show up again? Oh no, they're too powerful. They can't. And that's also like there are far fewer agents in this one as well. Like the only agent we really see isn't an agent. We just get to see Smith.
Yeah.
Well, Smith's not going to allow other agents around.
Well, he'll copy.
Yeah.
Me.
Daniel's hot topics. First Paradise Matrix had agents with wings. Little on the nose. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, but
we did debate this last time.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is that the twins didn't really die in the second movie either. They just got blown into the air, but they simply would have just landed and physically manifested again. They're just not on it. They just have to get another car to chase it, but Neo flies, so there's nothing they can do.
I gotta
yeah,
be honest. I took that to be a definitive kill when it came out the first time. They got incinerated.
Oh, they do sort of rise to the sky towards the camera, which is looking down, and they are in their sort of non-corporeal, ghost-like form. So I never thought they were dead. I just figured that they were
Nothing ever came back down. I just don't think that if nothing comes back down and the fire's going through them, even if they are, phasing through it, I took that to mean they're dead because they're screaming while the fire is going. So I took it to mean, oh yeah, you're dead. All it took to kill you was fire. Because it's a ball of gas.
It was. I think they were great characters with supporting a great idea. And again, when you lose someone like that, no one likes to see Boba Fett get killed on the Jabba's sail barge, but at least he shows back up in Return of the Jedi.
I think he's still dead. I fail to acknowledge after all these years he came out. Especially what would happen with him. I'm like, nah, you're still dead down there.
So do you guys want to do reviews? There we go. Daniel has an idea.
I'm going to review for about an hour and 22 minutes.
You mean ratings?
No, I mean ratings. Sorry, I mean ratings.
Yeah. I think we're ready for the ratings.
All right, you go first, Scotty.
I'm gonna give this like a 6.
6 red pills.
6 red pills. Again, I thought the first one was a 10 out of 10. I think I did an 8 or a 7 on this on Reloaded. This one's a 6. I still like it. I love Captain Mifune. I love the robots. I think it's a great mixture of sci-fi and sort of old-timey war movie with the wheelbarrows full of ammunition. I like how, while it isn't cut between them, beautiful.
Luge.
Oh yeah, the army of the robot. But yeah, I like the components of this movie. I think there's a couple of things that not even to change the story, but just a little bit more explanation. But yeah, so 6. I go for 6. 6 red pills.
Steve?
6.5.
Uno?
7.5.
Because
rewatching it right now, I'm just like, I'm having a great time.
I had a really good time.
I'm having a great time. And I think the whole Zion battle is, rewatching, I'm just like, man, this is well edited. The execution is on point. You can feel every gun barrel, every bullet fired. You can see the desperation. It's like this is where my emotions are at right now. Because I know it's going to come later, but I was fully invested in Zion winning this battle, even though you can tell the moment that drill came down. I'm like, oh, guys, you're all fucking dead. You're all dead. That drill is no joke.
I'll give it like I think I'm also teetering between a 6.5 and a 7. Because yeah, so I think maybe 6.5. I mean, it is entertaining.
Yeah.
Or maybe a 7. I don't know. Because I guess the thing you have to. I find that it's something you have to watch like when I'm marathoning it. It's not one that I'll just. It's not a movie where if I feel like a Matrix day, I'm gonna pop in the third. It's like no.
I don't usually rewatch the third one. I've seen the first two. I think I've told you guys this before, but I've seen the first two a ton of times. But I don't usually finish the third or even start it. So on this rewatch today, I really enjoyed the movie more than I thought I was going to. So
Yeah.
I was gonna give it a 7, but I gave Reloaded a 7. So I was like,
I think by
it's on
itself,
par with that one. I think it's it's a step down, a half step down, but
I think by itself it's a 6.5. But if you're marathoning it, I think it's a 7.
yeah, I agree with that.
And if you're
I
having
could
a
go with-
Oracle cookie, it's an 8.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad that we finished talking about the Matrix trilogy and there are no more movies to watch.
Well, that's one next
Oh,
week.
wait. Yes. We will return for the resurrection. Back up in your ass with the resurrection.
Well, that's right. There are rumors of a 5th Matrix movie. Hope not.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless you get the original again, unless the Wachowskis come back again, but we'll see.
Get
Yeah.
both
Even
of
then,
them.
we'll talk about it next week.
Get both
We
of
will
them.
talk about it next week.
I would say get both of them this time.
Yes.
yeah, yes.
No.
Or
Well,
actually, have somebody brand new come in. I would love to see somebody who has a clear vision, pitch of an amazing pitch, and come do that movie.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
You know what they could do? They could do an anthology type like Atlas.
The Cloud Atlas?
Yeah, Cloud Atlas. They can do like an anthology.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
There are always possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'll drink to that.
I mean,
Tariffs not included, but I'll drink to it.
so thank you everyone for being here in the chat. Thank you to Old Man Bird once again. Appreciate you, your support and contributing to the conversation. Do the Evolution 78. Thank you so much. Lemon, always a pleasure. Thank you for hanging out. DJ Play Nice, member for 6 months. I thank you for your support, sir. I appreciate it very much, very much. And Cinema Gulp, thank you, Ben, for being here. If you want to come for Resurrections, Ben, you're more than welcome. Daniel's Hot Topics, thank you. And BJ Creatives, thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller. But I do appreciate your hypotheses and insight, Daniel. You're a pop culture genius, sir. And when you add to the conversation, it's always a joy. But yeah, I guess that's what that is. There we go.
I mean, I wish I had something witty. There's probably a witty line from this movie that I'm forgetting. We could end on that, but I don't.
Cookies need love.
I was about to go into a maniacal laugh like Agent Smith.
Or like my tag there. Why do you persist? I did find that interesting. Also, it's that last bit is that like he recognizes when they get because he tells Neo right before the fight, we already know I'm the one that beats you. But they fight anyway, and then right when he's approaching him, he freaks out because he's like, I've seen this before. And then when Neo gets back up to fight again, he starts getting like upset with him. And then Neo says, oh no, you were always right. And he's still upset. It's like,
That's what happens when you know how the cookie is made.
So there you go. That's how you there it is.
Old Man Bird says, that's what the Matrix 3 writers said. Why do you persist?
Why do you persist?
Me.
And on that note, we'll see everybody next week. Have a great
Adios.
Even me.
Bye.